All right, what's up, everybody? Got a good one for you, and it's really special for Gemini right now because it's real live human contact with other people, which is just, I mean, that's a plus. That's a plus these days. So we're sitting down with the guys from Midwest Flyways. So we've got Cal, Joey, and Connor. We got the triple threat. And these guys, they create some killer content, some really great tutorial waterfowl-related stuff. Check it out at Midwest Flyways, MidwestFlyways.com. We'll get that stuff out of the way. People are probably, I'm sure they're Googling it as we talk right now. But before we get too deep, guys, maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves. We'll go right to left, my right. And down the line, introduce yourselves and talk about Midwest Flyways, maybe how you guys got started and what you've been up to.
Yeah, all right. Well, that starts with me then. So I'm Cal of Midwest Flyways. So the way we got started is Joey actually taught me to waterfowl hunt.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Teaching, but
yeah, it's a work in progress.
When you learn from not a great teacher, you try to learn as fast as possible so you can move forward. No, Joey taught me to waterfowl hunt, and after I left. So I played football in college, and when I left that, I really didn't have like a super big passion that was in my life. So I've only been waterfowl hunting for 6 or 7 years now?
5 or 6, yeah.
Somewhere
around there.
I started when I was like 20, 21, 28. Yeah, it seems like it goes faster though than you think it does. So it's like I feel like I've only been hunting for a couple years, but So I started hunting with Joey, and then that's actually how we started Midwest Flyways because I got super addicted to it right away.
Mm-hmm.
We actually all grew up together. So I grew up across the street from Joey.
Oh, nice.
And we knew each other just by being brothers growing up together. And then I went to school with Joey and Connor.
Okay.
And Connor lived pretty close. Joey ended up moving, but I stayed. Then I got to be good friends with Connor. So we all knew each other before we started this. So Joey taught me to waterfowl hunt, and we started Midwest Flyways basically initially just to try to help other people learn how to waterfowl hunt. Because one thing I picked up on right away was Joey grew up doing this, and I didn't. And so if you don't grow up like learning it from a young age, it's pretty hard to learn the ropes right away.
I think if you've been involved, I guess it's probably anything, like your whole life, you almost like forget what you don't know or things that are just like, it's just like so second nature. Like you forget that that's just not second nature. Like when Jim will be talking about cars, I'm like, Jim, I don't know what that is. He's like, what do you mean I don't know what that is? I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Right.
Flux capacitor.
It
happens a lot,
capacitor.
even not with cars. Just sometimes talking to Mark about basic things.
I don't know a lot of things, Jimmy. Is that
why are your eyes so glazed over right now?
Yeah, well, that's rage.
That's rage. Perfect.
But you bring up a really, I think, cool point. In college, I took a class. It was actually a pretty interesting class, but it was like the sociology of sport. And one of the things that people struggle with if they've had, like, if you're like a lifelong football player and that's like almost like your identity and you go to college, and that's really all you have time for, right?
Right.
And then when that's over, it's like, well, now what do I do with my time? Now who am I? I'm not a football player anymore. And hunting or fishing or the outdoor in general, what an amazing outlet to focus those things on because that's a lifelong thing. You can do it forever. Tons to learn. You're always learning. So I think that's a really cool story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Joey, you introduce yourself then.
Well, I'm Joey Vasallo, and growing up doing this stuff with my dad from a very young age. I think he said he was carrying me in the duck blind starting at like 1.5, 2 years old. So
right on.
I'd cry my eyes out every time he wouldn't take me, and he didn't want to hear me crying. So he's just like, okay, we'll just carry you on our shoulders. And I've just been absolutely smitten with it ever since. And then I didn't really get super serious into it until I was about 13 when my dad stopped waterfowl hunting. And so I just lived on a small lake in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, and before school I'd duck hunt, and then I'd duck hunt after school, and I just fell in love with it.
Dedication.
It was so much fun.
On, dude. That's pretty sweet.
That's pretty much where I learned a lot of my stuff was just going out by myself, trying everything, and then realizing what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
So a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Oh, you can't just sit out in the middle of a canoe with 6 decoys around you? Weird. Okay.
Good to know.
That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, write that one down.
I've pinpointed what I've been doing wrong.
Just check that one out.
For sure. 100%. We already got Mark figured out.
That's pretty much it for me.
Connor Olstead, and I started hunting actually with my dad, so I'm right in the middle of these two. Cal was a little bit late. Joey was a little bit early, depending on your definition. And me and my
3
dad
would be early.
My dad, he didn't grow up hunting, and he really wanted me to hunt. And so we kind of started learning together when I was about 14, 15. And we started in the duck blind and kind of saw like, oh man, that's quite a bit to get into. Like, owning the property if you need to, or doing public land or whatever. And so he's like, well, let's try archery deer together. So we did do some initial duck towards the beginning, and then went more into archery deer because we had access to some private land to do that on. And so then I really took off in that arena. And then recently, as of just this last year, like me and him were able to actually go out to Maine, do some sea duck hunting, and a trip together. And it was kind of almost like a full circle because he kind of took me originally duck hunting. And then now, because I do this and I do videography in the outdoor industry, I was able to bring him to Maine, and it was a really cool experience.
That's neat.
That is awesome. So was it just with your dad? Was it just kind of on a whim? He's like, why aren't we hunting? And then just let's go try it. Or
yeah, I mean, kind of like when I was growing up, I always liked BB guns, and I always liked fishing and all that kind of outdoorsy type stuff. But he, and he felt like he was doing me a disservice with not taking me hunting to some degree, and so he kept trying to find those outlets, and one of them was one of my friends at the time, his dad, and who was my soccer coach as well. And so we went out duck hunting with him. He just asked me, he's like, hey, can you just please just take us so that we can just understand what goes behind it? And he's like, yeah, let's go on a duck hunt. And then we started with archery and figured that because we had a similar draw, so we could have the same bow, and so we could sit in the stand together, figure it out. And yeah, it was a good time. And now like I said, I'm a videographer in the outdoor industry, so I'm out there all the time. So, and I attribute a lot of that to my dad just like saying, let's go,
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome, man. Like, that's a super interesting path into it for sure. Like, it's almost
not
just like
a really common one.
right.
It's like right in the middle. It's like, my friends not really, it was my dad, but late.
You kind of learned
almost.
it together, actually, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, which is
That's
cool.
got to be pretty fun.
It was. Yeah,
so
for
super
sure.
random, but Joey and Connor were actually sworn enemies.
Yeah.
So like the way this started, so I was still friends with both of them, and Connor actually went to school for video production. So Connor owns his own media company.
At the time, I was working for a media agency that focused on the outdoor industry. But then, so Cal was like, we should film this.
Yeah, so Joey took me out, and I was obsessed with it, like instantaneously. And I was like, well, you know how to film this and make amazing videos. And I'm learning so much right now, and I just feel for all these people that don't know how to do this. And we can make some cool cinematics. And we were just like, we had no idea what we were doing, obviously, other than Connor. So
Connor knows what he's doing.
Connor knows what he's doing. Yeah, thankfully. Connor's the
For
glue.
sure.
He just holds us together. But so I went to Joey, and I was like, hey, we're going to do this. And he's like, with Connor? And I'm like, yeah, man, with Connor, because he knows what he's doing. So, and you don't. So we have to.
And then he took me out to lunch, and he goes, hey, we're going to do it, and Joey's really good. And I'm like, oh, with Joey?
Yeah, for sure. And he's like, so then I went and hung out with Connor alone, and I was like, dude, we should do this. And I was like, yeah, so it's going to be me and you and Joey. And he's like, Joey, man, I don't know about that. So it was so funny because they were like still sworn enemies, and they used to be like best friends.
Yeah.
But then they had a little falling out, and But then anyway, so then we all met up. They were both like, well, I need to like hang out with him again, and see if it'll work. So we all met up, and they were both like hit it off right away again.
It took a little bit of time to get like the trust behind, but honestly, hunting is what does that. Like, if you got everybody's got guns in the field, you got to trust each other. You know what I'm saying? And
It's true.
You got to come up with a plan. You're traveling a lot of the time together. Like, yeah, it's more like a brotherhood relationship than it is almost like, you're just friends that like see each other at, events or barbecues. I mean, you're like doing something in a pursuit together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it brings you a little closer. But yeah, so then we started this, and initially we started it in February.
Yeah.
So it was not in season, so we were just making like hunter educational videos with Joey. Like, we were learning stuff as we were going and, figuring everything out. So I think our first videos were like
how to
Texas rig in 60 seconds,
yeah.
like a duck decoy, and then we did like 3 good calls for a beginner.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, like you watch your first like 1,000 views hit, and you're like, man, maybe we could do this,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we started it, and
all I can picture is that part of Step Brothers when they're like, did we just become best friends?
yeah,
Oh, totally.
totally, man. And it was funny for me because I was still like really best friends with both of them separately, but they just weren't friends together.
Yeah.
So it works a lot better now.
There you go. That's good.
Now
That's
we're
good.
better friends than him and I are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
see.
I have new friends also. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good
They
to
don't
know.
live in this town though. You don't know 'em.
No.
But yeah, and all we do is public hunting, pretty much. You know, when it
Well,
comes-
we do have a lot of-
we do have a lot of private lease stuff that we don't lease it, but private permission for goose hunting more than anything.
Sure, like field
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
field stuff.
It's all field stuff. Our private permission is all fields, but I love to duck hunt. I love duck
Yeah.
hunting more than goose hunting. That's what I grew up doing. And so when I started out going by myself, I'd be on water, and I don't own any land, so I'm going on public water. And so I figured it out pretty quick, but yeah. It's
Yeah.
fun.
And Public Lands Month is next month.
September.
September.
Yeah.
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 At the time that's
So, like,
releasing, I
3
think we'll be
days.
releasing this pretty much during Public Lands
Okay.
Month. But yeah.
Yeah.
Which is definitely, I mean, I guess your style of hunting and a lot of places that you do hunt, I mean, it's right in line with that. And I think that's kind of, I guess the focus of today's podcast is really like navigating, public land hunting, maybe some introductory stuff for people that haven't embarked on that mission. Like one of the biggest things is you need a place to go, right? And if you don't have a lease, or maybe you don't have your own land, or you haven't gotten permission, or even seeking permission, like that's a difficult thing. It can be nerve-wracking. You're knocking on a stranger's door. Joey, you actually had some cool pathways into that. I don't know if you want to give away that little
Yeah, we got a video about it.
Yeah,
but,
share it up, dude.
Okay, well, pretty much the way I've gotten most of my permission on private land is by saying, you've got a lot of pigeons here. Can I kill them for you? And they either say, what, get away, or they say, please kill every single one of them. And then you just build a relationship with them. You're seeing them a couple times a week because they're right around my house. And then it comes around to duck and goose hunting season. They're like, hey, yeah, if you want to shoot geese, go ahead. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then I'm a
Nice.
contractor. Cal and I are both contractors, and so that's another way to get permission as well.
Right.
You see a broken screen door. There's one time I was in South Dakota, big roost of snow geese. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, and I said, hey, I knocked on his door, and his screen door fell down. And I'm like, oh, no. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's broken. I was like, you want me to fix it? I got my screw gun in the truck. And he's like, you know how to do that? And I was like, yeah. Fixed it and went down there and waited for snow geese to pass by, and everyone else was mad at me because I was shooting the roost.
Mark,
So-
it pays to be handy.
It does
does.
pay to be handy. Which is that your strategy now? You just like go up and break somebody's stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Joey's out there throwing rocks through windows.
I'm really good at breaking things.
Yeah.
Trust
Yeah.
me on that.
Hey, this window's broken. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Shh, now it is.
Yeah,
You're probably gonna need some help with that. By the way,
wasn't broken last night.
That's
so
great. Is there something about public land waterfowling that is inherently more difficult to find spots or where to go than deer hunting public land?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Or-
You're probably gonna have to ask that question to Connor
I don't
because I
deer
don't
hunt
we
public
don't
land.
deer hunt too much.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
in my opinion, I think that hunting ducks and geese in public land is a little bit easier
Okay.
because you can see where the ducks are going. You can scout. If you drive around
Right.
enough, you're going to find them.
Yeah.
In deer, like you can drive around all day, you're never going to see anything. You can go sit in a spot for during or before season, and nothing's there. You got to find a different spot. Like it's and that I guess that depends what part of the country that you're in. But in where we are, it's ducks
In
and
Minnesota.
geese. You can say like, hey, we got to find a spot, for this weekend or whatever. And you might have a bus the first day or so or whatever, but it's like then you pack up by 10 a.m., you go scout for the next couple hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you
Gotcha.
figure it out. In deer hunting, it's like you're putting all your, your
Eggs
things
in
in
one
one
basket,
basket.
yeah.
And in that, you have a little bit more tricks to pull. You can do, plots or, I don't know, depending on what part of the country, you could probably bait, and all that stuff. We can't in Minnesota, but so you have a few more tricks you can pull with deer, and there's only 1 to 5 tags or whatever, depending on your zone. Whereas with duck and goose, you want to be hunting every day, and so
Got it.
you got to be able to find them quicker.
So Connor, do you feel like though there's more pressure in the waterfowl hunting spectrum in terms of like getting out to a spot and like being, because that's the only thing too about like waterfowl. Like if you're on a lake, there's only one spot where you're going to shoot them really good. Maybe
that is something that I've been really surprised about and kind of opened my eyes to in coming into this and filming a lot more with you guys. Is that it's like, for me, I'm like, oh hey, we found a flock. I found where most of them are coming. Well, it's like, oh no, we found where like the path is and where they end up and where most or all of them end up. And so for me, it's like, yeah, I thought it's like, oh yeah, they're going to, we're going to encounter some hunters or whatever. It's going to be a vaster area because I'm used to deer hunting.
Yeah.
There's deer everywhere. But it is very much so more pressure in that one area. And if you hunt one lake that is the X, like everybody's going to that lake because they all figured it out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the one thing that I was going to ask about was like the pressure, the pressure and the competition, really, if that's what you want to call it. I know back home in Washington, 20 years ago, right? But I was hunting with some guys, and for opening day, they'd go in and camp on a hole like 2 days before opening day.
That still happens. Like
Best Buy on Black Friday or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when
it's exactly like that. Best Buy.
Yeah,
it is.
When me and my dad were figuring it out, for duck opener and whatever, we had this private property that we would mainly hunt deer in, and it had this just like small little pond, and we hunted deer enough seasons there that we figured out that the woodies would go on duck opener. They'd fly into the big lake like they normally do, and then they would figure out that it's duck opener because they would be shot at, and then they would all leave and come to our little hole, and it's because nobody had ever shot them there, and they're like, okay, guys. Spot B, and so we, of course, not knowing anything, took these 2 ragtag decoys that have been tossed around in my dad's truck for, 3 months and threw them out in the middle of this thing. We didn't have any waiters or anything like that. We just kind of sat in the weeds and waited, and we limited out in 7 minutes, and it's because we just knew where they ended up.
That's just lucky, though. Okay, don't think that that's going to happen to you, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't.
So I need 2 ragtag decoys.
Yes.
Oh, I don't need waiters.
Nope.
Good to know.
My expectations are already set.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a cinch.
That's a tough one.
So our strategy was not find the X; it was find the bounce off of the X and figure out where that ends up.
Which is fair. And there's a lot of different ways you can hunt. I mean, 2 years ago for our video for opener, we actually did have 2 guys sleep in a boat in the spot. Kindly volunteered themselves to do that, but
yes,
So I mean, that's pretty normal, actually. I mean, in terms of hunting public land. Or public water more so, you definitely are going to need to get to that spot early, and there's going to be a ton of dudes trying to get there. Have you guys seen the videos of people in like Arkansas in the timber?
I have, man.
Yeah, it's not like that, but it's
is that where they're all on their fan boats, like all just
they're just right at the beginning.
Yeah,
and they all just
being in Louisiana last year and understanding that like they have a time limit, you can't leave the launch before then.
Right.
To me, that is like.
Crazy.
That almost creates it so that everybody gets there at that time. Because for us, we don't have a time limit. We could sleep out there if we want.
You can sleep out there for 3 days. But like Louisiana, you can't put a boat in the water until 3 a.m.
Interesting.
So like, and I think there's a time limit in Arkansas too, where you cannot put a boat in the water until a certain time. And that's why you see those videos of those guys racing to the hole.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that we experienced in Louisiana. Like, it's like you're going to war. It really is. It's
they had
weird.
A gate. And then everyone's waiting at the gate. And there's like a line of people, and then they open that gate. And everyone just rushes to the water and goes in.
That's amazing.
Booking it, dude.
It's scary.
It's a lot different than what I've seen in some of the old English movies, where there's just like some nobleman going down with his double-barrel shotgun, and he's in a lineup of canoes or whatever. And then there's one that's probably been released by somebody like under the water, and they shoot that, hand it off to the servant boy, and grab another shotgun. And
over here, Jeffrey, another bird in the air. Yeah, no, it's not that anymore, unfortunately.
So it's not okay. Got it.
That'd be
you guys should try
a lot more chill.
If you guys filmed going on one of those hunts too, it'd be.
We should make a spoof video of that.
It'd be pretty awesome.
100%.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I mean, I would say for sure be prepared. And you asked kind of too, Mark, like how do you find spots to hunt? Right. That's a big thing. So one of the best things I think you can do if you're going to hunt public land is use the DNR maps.
Okay.
Because the DNR maps will actually tell you where you can and cannot hunt. And so that'll give you an idea like, hey, here's 5 different lakes within, 20 or 50 miles of my house or whatever that I can go and look at. other than that though, like Joey said too, like looking for permission, don't go there with the sole mindset of just kind of helping yourself out. You got to make a connection with those people and try to be personable. And if you can help them in any way, that's going to go a long way in terms of getting your permission. Another big thing is if you get the permission, don't assume you have it forever. Go back every year and ask them again for it. Keep in contact with them. Mm-hmm. However you can help out, that's going to be important, I would say. But yeah, I mean, definitely just look online on a map and start to pick out spots that you can hunt, and then go scout them. Go and do a drive-by, see if there's a public launch on the lake. Can I get a boat in here? Or some spots when you're first starting out, you can walk in, right, Joe? Some of the lakes you can just walk into if you don't have a boat.
Oh, yeah, you can walk into anything as long as you're not crossing private property.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
To get into the water. If you're in the water and you never touch dry land, so say you walk in from the launch, this is crazy, but I mean, 16-year-old kids will do this. You'll walk in at the launch and they'll walk like 2 miles in the water and they'll hit rocks and they're carrying decoys. And in Minnesota, that's crazy to me. Just because our lakes are deep.
Yeah, you never know.
You're like,
oh yeah,
so you gotta be careful.
It's weird. There's certain drop offs. I won't say that I've done it before, but I've done it before. So just go in over your waders. You're like, all right, I guess I'm just going home today. But yeah, as long as there's like a lot of laws, but I'd say the easiest way for someone to just get into waterfowl hunting is to look on a map, see how many houses are on that lake. If there's not a lot of houses on the lake, you probably can hunt it, and then check on the website. I mean, we have the internet nowadays.
Yeah.
Right.
When I started this, it wasn't like that prevalent. Like I didn't even know
Back
you could
in
use it
my
as a
day.
resource.
Back
Yeah.
in my day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
13.
super old. I just look young. So.
You guys are obviously in land of 10,000 hour.
It's like over 15,000.
Yeah,
actually.
land of 10,000 plus lakes, and then we're in Wisconsin, which I'm pretty sure what we dub a lake has a little bit less. It's
a little less value.
strict in what we dub a lake, but we have a lot too.
Yes, you do.
But not everybody's just tripping over lakes everywhere they walk too. So so you guys are saying lake a lot is basically if I'm not finding a lake in my SOL, or what else am I looking for?
So that's a great point.
Can you ever just like find a lot of ducks where you're just hey I'm on land? There's water maybe nearby, but I'm on land. Or
fields, yeah. I mean, you definitely obviously we field hunt for mallards.
Okay.
Probably
more so geese though, like in the water.
Yeah, if we are hunting in fields, it's more times for geese, but it would be very common for us to shoot mallards in a field too. But I know Joey will have some backstory, but rivers. I mean, you can definitely hunt rivers. So
those are a lot tougher to scout, though.
They are.
Yeah.
But there's
Mississippi
rivers
by
all
us,
over the country. So
Mississippi by us, it just goes up and down so fast, and certain times of the year you'll shoot a lot of wood ducks, which are not my favorite duck. Like they're gorgeous ducks, but I'm not targeting them. I'm going after mallards or divers.
Why not?
So
that's a great question, Mark.
Because
it's like a stigma in the
they're so
waterfowl industry.
delicious.
It's like a stigma in the waterfowl industry. Like a woody is not some prestigious duck.
I like working the birds. So like mallards work great to a call, and honkers work great to a call, and so that's a lot of fun for me. That's like main part of why I love waterfowl, and then they taste amazing. But like woodies, you can just be there and they'll just dump into your decoys for no reason, just because they saw a silhouette of something on the water. It could just be a rock. They hit a rock, So they're just like a little dumb.
It's my kind of duck.
It's just it's not as much a duck that there's like a relationship with per se. Like Joey said, like it's not the purest necessarily. Like you're not actually calling the duck into your spread.
It's more
it's
of
just if you get lucky,
opportunity.
it's an opportunity duck hunting situation, which there's obviously nothing wrong with that. It's just
Not
at a
my
certain
cup of tea.
point, just like if you're a deer hunter, eventually, you've shot enough doe or whatever and you're meat hunting and now you're like, I want to shoot a big buck. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
You start out, you're hunting and you shoot woodies and you're happy. And then as you get better and better at it, now you want to shoot mallards.
I'm following.
The bluegills of ducks.
I like bluegills.
I like I can't even talk. Jim and I just got done fishing. We just pounded a ton of bluegills.
I was like every 3 seconds.
Nice.
I was like, oh yeah.
I love that.
And there's nothing wrong with a good woody shoot here or there, and there's nothing wrong with catching some bluegills.
No. That's right.
It's just not maybe the thing you put on the wall or
I can see that though. Like the challenge. I mean, I could see like, oh, you scout out a hole, or like, oh, the woodies are really dropping into the spot, and more of like an ambush versus like you said, that calling interactional relationship perhaps. But they are a beautiful duck though, man. Holy
they're
mackerel.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
I swear to God, they're the prettiest duck out there.
Yeah.
Woodies and shovelers, I think, are
COVID.
Yeah,
Give me some, dude. A little COVID there.
dude. That
little
Drake,
air bump.
that Drake shoveler,
Air elbow.
I know, it's a beautiful duck.
beautiful.
I love them. The true greenhead, as we call it.
Yes,
Yeah,
the smiling mallard. I think they call them as well.
Boot lip, shovel face. There's so many names for them. Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yeah,
I knew
Just
somebody,
throw out any word.
you can. I think. Yeah, actually,
I knew somebody with the nickname Shovel Face.
Was that a
no.
compliment?
Did they-
can't be good.
Probably not. Yeah,
Must have shot a lot of.
not nice.
Okay.
Getting back to
The topic at hand.
like maybe like that more public land strategy. Like some
Yeah.
people just you don't have the resources, you don't have the permission. So you're talking about using state maps, things like that. What are you doing? And then also the competition, right? I mean, like there are other people hunting. You guys, and I've heard other people talk about like, hey, you want to be on the X, you got to be where the ducks want to be. That's going to be like the primary, ducks or geese. That's going to be the primary spot where all the factors are putting the waterfowl in that spot. What are you doing to, I guess, put yourselves in the X, kind of beating out the competition, right? Or how are you pivoting if you're like, oh man, like this was my plan A, and now there's other people there that beat you to the punch, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's two different ways I would go about this. There's ducks and then there's geese.
Yeah.
They're totally different. So which one do you want to hear, ducks or geese?
Let's go ducking.
Sure.
Ducking?
I agree.
Pretty much screwed when it comes to ducks. Pretty much screwed. If you get beat, you're screwed. But like
It's gonna be a tough day.
That strategy for like how are you
So
getting the X?
don't just set up, fairly adjacent to them, and when those ducks are on the swing,
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy, man.
Don't be
That's
the
the
downwind
worst.
swinger.
That is the worst.
We'll have words at the boat launch.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
So
But-
you know what though, like we're kind of joking around here, but
Yeah.
like for somebody just getting into duck hunting,
Totally.
some of these, I guess, finer.
Oh, it seems
the
totally-
It's like etiquette
things.
stuff.
Oh,
Oh,
it seems,
yeah.
It
Like,
seems
you don't-
100% like you just kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
I've never been in a public restroom before. The middle urinal's open.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
I was gonna refer more to golfing. Like, don't walk in someone's line. when they're
Okay.
putting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I did that all the time when I started golfing.
Right, yeah,
Part
it's
of the reason
etiquette
I
thing, you
quit
don't know.
is my brother almost hit me with a golf club.
There you go.
Yeah, and rightfully so. So
But like
kidding.
if you're just getting started out, like you might be totally caught. You're like, I didn't know.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just you're not, and you're talking about getting started later in life. Those aren't things you're gonna know right away.
right.
Yeah. So what?
You're gonna find out real quick though.
Yeah.
it
just
sounds
kidding.
like it.
if
So,
Joe,
like,
if
if
Joey's
there's-
out
are,
there,
though.
you're gonna find out.
Oh,
real
if any,
quick.
you'd be lucky if it was Joey. Some of the guys that are out there.
Yeah.
If it's like so there's like one group of people there on the X, which is the X. Did you find that scouting? By
Yeah.
the way?
Yeah. So
found
that's
that,
what
like-
I think Joey was leading into.
Yeah,
So
so
like for duck hunting,
You're driving. Ducks and geese primarily fly 2 times a day. Right away in the morning and right before sunset, they start to eat, essentially. So ducks will eat everything from aquatic things, so like freshwater shrimp, and like if they're on the sea, like mallards, they'll eat mussels. Like they eat everything. They'll eat grain, whatever. So if we're talking water hunting, they're probably eating freshwater shrimp, especially in Minnesota.
Okay.
Or acorns on the river in Wisconsin when you guys flood right away in the season and they're eating acorns. So with the mallards, they'll just dump into a hole and you're like, okay, how do I get to that hole now? What are they doing in the hole? Are they eating there or are they just hanging out there? So these are the things that I'm with binoculars essentially. I'm not going to drive my boat in there.
right.
I will not, because then you're screwed.
You're
Then there's no
disturbing
X.
their X.
Okay.
Like where they
And
want to be.
They're not going to go back.
Right.
Sometimes they will. I mean, if they
Okay.
really, really want to be there, but
you know
most
what's
times
a good movie? Triple X.
with Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
They were on
Anyway.
the X for that one.
Good intermission.
Continue.
I'm glad we
Perfect.
addressed that.
Yeah.
I could tell that was your favorite movie.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
Be
got
easy.
that written all over the back of his neck.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh my.
X.
Yes. All right, Vin Diesel. So you want to find out if it's a feeding spot or a loaf, and then you just have to sit there and watch them for a little bit. Same thing with if a field's there, it's not going to be their loaf, essentially. So
Yeah.
Oh.
You're going to
okay,
be
right.
seeing birds in their loaf too, like typically it'd be like midday or after they're done feeding at sunset, going back to their resting spot for the night.
And then how long they're using a loaf.
A loaf.
So they're
like
just
a bread,
loafing
like
around.
a bread loaf. Yeah,
So
like
just
the roost.
loafing
It might
around.
be called otherwise.
Okay.
It's just their hangout spot. They're drinking some water.
Oh, okay.
They rest there. They stay
Socializing.
overnight. They'll sit
Probably
there during the middle of the
digesting
day.
their food,
Yep.
maybe.
Getting
Yep.
fat.
Okay.
Getting fat.
So it's
Okay.
sort of
I
like a
that.
hunter's etiquette thing also, that you don't want to shoot the roost.
Okay.
So that's a big thing to know. Like, you don't want to be hunting midday on the roost, killing the birds there, because that'll force them to leave the area if they don't feel comfortable where they're at.
Depends on the species, whether
does.
it's a certain type of duck or a goose. Totally depends. And you'll know the roost versus a loaf if they sleep there overnight. However, the loaf that we're talking about is they're feeding here, and then for some reason they go to another body of water, and then they go back to the main body of water.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So that's actually a great place to shoot them, is that loaf, because most people don't shoot a loaf. They
Okay.
shoot them where they're eating.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
there's a lot that goes into it. I haven't
It
even
sounds
thought
like it.
that in depth about it in a really, really long time. It's just such second nature for
Right.
me.
You're
So
just already categorizing where they're at, why they're there, all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like I may have just confused some people there too. So the loaf is different from the roost. The roost is where they're like sleeping, like resting overnight. The loaf is where they're at in the middle of the day, chilling.
Noted.
So you want to know where they're going to and from the loaf.
that's how you're successful in waterfowl, is know where they're coming from, why they're going to a certain place,
Yeah.
and then
I guess I always just kind of thought that during that season that they were all on their way down south or whatever. And I always just it almost seems like when they get to certain spots and they hang for a little while, and then they'll go further south and they'll hang for a little bit. Is that what's happening?
essentially,
It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like every day they get up and go further south.
no.
Okay.
No, the most of the reasons why birds push south or they move further, they migrate further, is because they ran out of food or they ran out of open water. So if they don't have food, they're going to die. If they don't have open water, they're not safe at night. So they're susceptible to predators, or that's where they're most safe, is on water. So,
Okay. Got it.
So they leave.
So they leave. Yeah.
Peace out.
So that's
like in
why they
Minnesota,
push
we-
out of Canada into Minnesota, Wisconsin, then they move further, Missouri, and then just like that whole progression, like Joey was talking about, the freeze line. You'll just watch the migration move with the freeze line, essentially.
Which is also why you'll see a lot with geese. If you have like a nuclear power plant that has warm water,
Yeah.
they will come all the way down south to that place or the ponds, and then they'll stop,
right.
Right.
So you see that in like
Why
Illinois.
why
you
waste
see that in
their
a ton of
energy?
places.
which makes people mad south of the nuclear power plant because then they're not flying down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shoot them.
Well, do you want to eat those glowing green geese anyway?
oh, I'll eat them.
Oh yeah.
I'll eat them.
It tastes even better actually. A little sweeter.
Do they?
Yeah, just a little sweetness
Okay.
to the meat.
No, it's just warm water discharge is what it is. It's not actual chemicals.
Right. Got it.
Right. Wink, wink. No, I think one of the things too, though, like Joey was saying, the biggest thing you can do is find the spots where you can go and watch them, and then scout them. So Joey was, I think, trying to set it up for you have to watch them and the progression of how they spend their day to try to understand where it's best to hunt them.
Gotcha.
That's like the
Gotcha.
simplest way I could explain all this, the jumble of words. It just
That's how
came
we're kind of
through us.
finding the X, right?
Yes.
So that was my original question, and then it was in the midst of while we were discussing too. Like, you found an X, if you show up then too, and like there's one group of people there, is it like basically don't even try, or how many like?
I'm at a point now where if someone beats me to that spot, like sometime if I see him from the launch, or if I see him from the road and
You
I see
set
him
up
in
10
my
yards
spot,
away from them.
I'm not going to set up 10 yards away from him. I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm either going to hit a different part of the lake and put out more decoys than I would have before and then call my heart out, or I'm just going to go to plan B, like a different spot completely.
Okay.
It totally depends on the day.
Yeah.
If I don't want to drive another 30 minutes, I'll just set up on the other side of the lake and pray to God.
And
that
just
it works
hope that
out.
you're pulling birds from where they thought they should have been this morning because they were there yesterday. And there's a bunch of new birds in the area that found a new spot. That's essentially
Okay.
what you're trying to do. But
It's like being a club promoter.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's over at this club. I'll go
Yeah.
to that one.
Yeah.
It's old news.
exactly.
Got it.
It's kind of
You
like
guys started
Why
new.
didn't we just say that to begin with, Jim?
we don't have a lot of club
They had
experience
cheaper
on this
drinks
side
at
of
the
table,
other
so-
clubs.
Yeah. So we went.
Girls are hotter too. So
When you're, there you go. Another.
There, and that's the reason.
The other than maybe like birds themselves, right? You know, you're looking at, you know, food or rest or habitat. Like, what are some things, like maybe there aren't birds present at that time, but like, are there some things that you're looking for outside of that that's going to let you know that it's going to be a good duck spot?
Totally. So let's take the roost, for example. There are natural flight lines that birds take every year, just because that's how the wind is, or they have something in their brain that makes them come back to that same spot. I don't know what it is exactly, but
well, I'm gonna interject
it's
here.
Also
so
Friday,
like
so
a few of the things,
True.
a few of the things that I look for is obviously other than just a food source. So, you know, a big thing obviously is a food source. So if they have a food source, so I think what Joey was trying to say is
huge water source where they're going to be comfortable at night.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So you're looking
so
for
food
like,
source and then a safe place for them to stay.
gotcha.
Yep.
Like
Okay.
in fairly close proximity then?
Within, I'd say like a mile. It totally depends on the time of year.
Yeah.
So
could
if
be
it's too
5
close to
miles,
the
it
roost,
could be
it's
a
not
mile.
good. If it's too close to the roost, they're going to hear that on the roost, and they're going to be like, okay, well, those 30 friends just went over there and heard a bunch of gunshots, so we're not going to go over there.
Yeah. They really will, though. I mean, for sure. So it totally depends. Another thing, like on a lake, we try to look for like either like a bay where they might be able to take some, you know, refuge, or possibly like a point on a lake, just depending on what type of species you're hunting. So, you know, if you want to go a little further into that too, Joey, like, I mean, if you want to kind of explain the difference between
Some
puddling
sort of
ducks
cover.
and divers too.
Yeah, so like puddle ducks, they eat in shallow water. Diving ducks, they eat in deeper water.
Right.
So divers really like, how do you say, a deep drop off of like a point.
Right, a
They
point.
love it. They just buzz the shoreline all the time, and if it's if they can, I don't know how they know, but they know that there's a drop off there.
Some
And that's-
perception they have.
You know, so there's your zooplankton, then your plankton, and it's a whole food chain going up, and they eat like middle of the food chain. They eat fish.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too where like with divers, we know it's going to be pretty rare that they're going to be landing into the decoys continuously. It's going to be oftentimes more of pass shooting situations. You know, obviously we want them to land in the decoys, but divers are just unpredictable. So on a point, they'll fly over the point to look at their opportunity for feeding there. So that's a good spot. But
then again, what you see in binoculars from the road, you see a bunch of black things on the water, and you look out there, and then you see them bobbing up and down. It's like, okay, there must be food there. Then you check it on your Navionics or whatever you have for an app to tell you how deep the water is. You're like, okay, it starts at 5 feet, drops down to 20. And they're about 30 feet from shore. They're in about 20 feet of water eating something.
Okay. Gotcha.
You know? So there's a decent amount of research that goes into it, but
Sure.
you just have to, the best way to find birds on public land is to drive and then like find them. And then you just watch them for a little bit.
Okay. That's half the way you pick up like the different things they like and don't like too. Because it can be different in different parts of the country. Obviously, if you're hunting timber, that's a whole different situation than what we're hunting on open lake. So, yeah, driving around and seeing what birds are doing kind of in their natural environment per se, you can pick up a lot more on like, I see a lot of birds tucked away in this specific type of timber hole, or, you know, tucked away in these bays. They really like this food source, you know, this close to the roost. Like, you're going to learn all that stuff the more and more you scout them. So,
yeah. Are you guys just doing, does that scouting happen where all throughout, you know, the year well prior of season, you're just kind of hanging out and you're just waiting for that time to come, and then all of a sudden the season's there and you're like, we got to scout ASAP because now the birds have sort of come down to that point? Or?
Kind of. Like you're looking for, once you start to learn their patterns and like the different types of spots and lakes that you might be able to hunt or what type of field might be good, you start to get an idea of like, all right, this area has held birds. It could be a good spot, but you don't know until the birds show up.
Yeah.
So like you start to like, you know, Joey and I make mental notes throughout the year, and so does Connor. Like you're driving around, you're like, hey, there's a specific spot right here where if there are birds in the area, it could work. But that's why it is a lot of guys talk about like it's all hands on deck right before season.
Sure.
Because like even
the summer, it's not like you're going to be seeing, you know, there's
you're
a
not
bunch
gonna.
of birds over there. There's a bunch of birds. You just
They haven't moved in yet. Nothing.
They're in
so
CRP breeding.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
laying eggs and they're not eating out of fields.
Right.
Normally.
Okay.
Geese are.
it's not.
They're eating grass and they're eating wheat that was cut, but
But even like right now, like early season goose starts for us in
Next week.
Next week, yeah.
Yep.
And we're like, I was scouting the last week, and there's not a lot around. Not in my area. So, I mean, for me, I'm still like kind of waiting on birds to show up. Like Joey's seen some birds in his area, so
just
we know.
Driving, I have not scouted whatsoever. Right. Just driving, and I see about 400 geese in that field that I've seen them go in years before, and then I'm going to start scouting this Wednesday, just because it's close to season now.
For geese,
yeah. So it is kind of like
geese, because goose season for us is opens before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so early goose season opens before duck for us. So.
Okay. And that early goose stuff, I mean, that's generally for like kind of resident birds, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So like our
population control.
Not necessarily the hunting of or on that spot, but are like parks and golf courses part of your strategy there?
Ooh.
That's where they go. That's where they go.
Yeah.
So it's just
obviously parks is pretty much not happening.
So, but I mean, like as far as like even just like knowing that they like to be there and maybe they're going to fly
very
somewhere
good
else.
Knowledge.
Yeah,
so, and that's where we get into what's called traffic hunting.
Yeah, so this is where Joey was asking earlier, like, what's the difference between duck and goose?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the difference in goose is traffic hunting.
So I don't like hunting an X for geese just because they're smart birds. Like you can go and kick them at the park, but they know that they can't be killed there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, you start putting out decoys, and they are the smartest bird in the world. They'll drive you nuts. So in order to combat that, not even worry about how smart they are, they're going to the golf course, they're coming from this lake, and you have permission in between there. If you put out a good decoy spread, they have no idea you're there. They've never eaten in that field before. And then they hear when they're flying over, they hear a bunch of geese go crazy. Then they're like, whoa, something's going on down there. And when you goose call, you're actually telling them to go away.
Interesting.
Like, this is mine. They're super territorial. Mm-hmm. So when they hear that, they're like, oh, whoa. I want what he's got, And so then you can call them in, and that's called traffic hunting.
Because you're getting them on the way.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in line for something else, and you're changing their course. You're trafficking them.
It's a lot of fun.
Right on.
And just like, so when those geese are talking, or the geese that you're like imitating, or even a group of geese that are on the ground, when they're talking, are they talking to each other, or are they talking to those birds? Like, is it both. Competitive? Okay.
I'd say both. So like they'll be arguing with each other on the ground, mm-hmm. and other geese will hear that because they're either fighting about food or territory, one of the two. So other geese will hear that, and they'll be like, oh, there's something worth fighting for. I'm going to go down there and check it out. And then when those geese are landing, they're making a lot of noise, and the geese on the ground, I don't know if they're actually calling at the birds in the air or not. I don't know if they can...
Because I know, like, all the goose hunting I've done, you got birds in the air, and you're working them, and you're trying to get them to come in, and you're watching the birds, and I guess you're looking for, like, visual cues of how they're acting, how they're reacting to the calls, so you're trying to read those birds, I guess, essentially, but it also seems like you're always calling at them, too, like you're trying to talk to them, but I'm just trying to actually figure out, like, what the heck's going on in real life.
Right. I'm not a goose, so I don't know for sure.
Right. Well,
I'm so sorry.
That information would have been helpful about 42 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
100%.
I got you, man.
But
yeah, you just got to, in Minnesota at least, you just got to drive around and find them.
Yeah.
Figure out why they're doing what they're doing, and then go from there.
Well, and the hardest thing to do, too, is find them. Like, that's the hardest thing, because once you find them, if you have patience and time, you're going to figure out where you can hunt them. Because they're going to follow a pattern of behavior. Regardless, they're going to get up, they're going to go eat, they're going to come back, they're going to roost, they might loaf. Like, that's what's going to happen. So if you're willing to wait and figure out what they do, you can find a spot where you can hunt them, as long as there's a field or a lake that's public in that area. So that's what kind of makes goose hunting so much fun, though, is, you have the ability to say, well, I can't get permission on this X, or I'm not going to be able to hunt them on that, private golf course. But this field is like right in between that flight line, and I know they're flying low going to that golf course.
And if
you set out this many decoys and, sound good, they're going to do it.
That's cool.
So, and that's a cool thing.
And then do you not like hunting on the X, Joey, for geese, just because you like the challenge of hunting those, traffic birds?
It's also a lot easier. Like, when there's an X, people are going to ask for permission on that X.
Gotcha.
So if it's been going on for a couple of days and I see other trucks around it, I'm going to see who has permission on. I'm going to see like on Onyx, the hunting app.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see who owns that field. And I'm going to be like, okay, I don't know them, or I do know them. I bet you I can get permission for that tomorrow. Or I'm just going to say, forget the X. I'm going to go on the field right next to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, a quarter mile away, but it's still in between the roost and where they're feeding.
So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different than duck.
So that's different than duck hunting, but this is private land.
Yeah.
So once you're on private land, if we're the next farm over, that doesn't matter. There's no etiquette in that anymore.
Well,
like
you really shouldn't go right next door.
Yeah, but
and to be honest, if you're on
Like,
the
so
X,
if you can tell like birds are really going to work next to you, but they're still really high, maybe don't shoot at them.
Right.
yeah,
sky
If
busting.
you know that they're
Don't sky
working
bust.
the X and
Yeah,
they're going right
there
over
you
the
go.
top of you really shouldn't shoot those.
yeah, especially if you're poking at them. Like if it's like a iffy shot,
Your
don't-
grandpa's
yeah.
10
That's
gauge
bad.
and
Yeah.
you're at 80 yards
A
up.
lot of guys do
Probably
that too.
shouldn't do
That
that.
sucks. We would never do that. But the other thing, just a slight nuance too, with like the X when you're trafficking birds, they have been in that field already too. So especially just a slight thing, if you go in there and you put a blind in that field, they've been in that field for 3 or 4 days. So there is a better chance that they'll recognize that the field doesn't look the exact same or something like that. That's weird. Where like a traffic field, they've been flying over it for 4 days, but they didn't like look at it, consistently every day, super hard. So you have a lot better chance to put grassed up, 2x4 blinds or your layout blinds in that field, and they haven't like taken a solid look at it yet. So,
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, you can definitely get away
You're
with
playing.
more.
You're playing. Let's not mess this up. Let's pretend like we aren't here at all.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, they have no idea what's going on. They've never eaten in this field. Let's call them in, and they're in a new area.
Yeah,
Essentially,
it's all
at
a
that point.
foreign environment at that point.
I've
so.
heard that about geese is that they do tend to have a very good, great. It seems like eyesight and then memory, and they kind of create a schematic of the area. And if
Right.
it's not the way that they pictured it before, they'll book.
And in some instances, I'm just being generic. I don't really like to hunt an X. I will hunt an X.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's so much more fun and rewarding to traffic. And then let's just say you don't do well, no big deal. If
Right.
you do really well, it's like the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
low expectations, very important.
Yes.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
100%.
It's a wise old adage.
Under promise, over deliver.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How are you guys paying attention to wind? Like
How
for,
so?
for your setups?
Oh.
Like
yeah, that's
paying
a big
attention
one.
to it?
Yes,
Well,
especially if you're
like-
starting out, like where would we want the wind when we're hunting?
for ducks or geese.
Both.
Well, both really.
Both.
But
But you want to come from behind you, and you don't want the sun rising in your eyes. Essentially, that's like the biggest thing. And you don't want to directly behind you. It's still great, but I'd say the best is quartering over your right shoulder.
Okay.
Now, why is that?
because
just
birds
a lot
land
easier.
into the wind.
So
They what now?
The birds land into the wind.
Okay.
and then also their eyes are on the side of their head, which means that they're prey. And so when they're flying in straight at you, they're not looking directly at you, but I don't know. That's how I've heard it explained a lot too. Why people like it quartering over their shoulder, and I've seen it. It's just an easier shot, I guess.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
a bigger thing too is if the bird is landing into your face, they didn't have to, come over your shoulder to land into your decoys, and so then there's a better chance they're not making you in the sense too.
Okay,
It's
right.
the classic
flying over your
shot.
blinds.
It's the classic shot of their wings open up
Right,
and they're
just
just right there in
out.
front of you.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody's take them to
That's what
church and
everyone's
they get up and
chasing.
shoot them.
Take them to church.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
Now
everyone's
I'm
chasing,
following.
man. Is that birds in your face, cupped up like that?
Sure.
That's what you
So
That's
pray for.
exciting right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is important with the wind. Another big thing is too, you can start to judge the more you hunt if it's going to be normally a good day or a bad day. Like if you have dead no wind, right there, that's
It's
a
gonna be
concern.
hard.
It's
They
going
have
to
to
be
work
tough.
a lot harder to land,
Yeah.
essentially. Especially in a
right.
field. They work those wings like crazy to land into a field. On water, they can just skim on.
Skim
Okay,
in. But
sure.
if there's wind, that wind will carry them kind of cupped up.
Sure.
Otherwise they're just a lot more work for them to try and sit down and eat.
Yeah.
So unless it's an ideal situation for them to eat there, they might pass up on that.
Okay, gotcha.
So wind is important. The sun is important. If there's no visibility on your decoys, like if it's super dark out, and they can't see the decoy at all, that takes away from obviously you setting decoys in general.
Okay.
So you'll typically find like when we're hunting, the sun starts coming up and the wind picks up a little bit. You're starting to look at more ideal situations. So those little nuances change things.
Connor, you were talking about? Maybe like you thought like there maybe was a little bit of difference depending on the scenario between ducks and geese. What were you thinking about?
Well, it's
there?
more so because of the water versus the land.
Oh, okay.
Because
Gotcha.
you're more hunting ducks, on water usually, and then geese on land.
At least in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Gotcha.
Go down to Kansas, no one water hunts there.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Oh,
It's
really?
all field.
Mhm.
Yeah. Field hunting. A lot.
What's your I've been on, I guess enough waterfowl hunts where get a variety of conditions, like from just bluebird, sunny to, some snarly weather. Like what's your quintessential, this is the best day to hunt waterfowl? And maybe pick one for ducks, one for geese if you think it's different.
Well, I feel like
Maybe
everyone has a different opinion on this.
you
too,
started
though.
off.
I don't know. My favorite hunting is a snowstorm for sure. Like when you
Blizzard.
know it's gonna blizzard like halfway through your day or like 10 a.m. It's sick because the
what's going
birds.
on there?
Well, because the birds know as soon as the weather starts, this is their chance to eat. Right now. So if you're in that situation and it's not snowing super bad, but it starts to pick up a little bit, you're going to see a lot of activity.
Okay.
In my experience, you're going to see a lot of birds being like, all right, we need to eat now and get back to the roost or the loaf where we can just chill and wait this storm out.
Okay.
Gives
So-
them energy.
And it's just sick, man. Like there's just nothing cooler than being, in a snowstorm with geese landing in your face or mallards. It's just really cool. That's my favorite.
Makes for cool
personally.
pictures too.
What's that?
Makes for
Yeah.
cool pictures too.
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
My ideal hunting setup is snowstorms are always really, really fun. Pretty hard to top, but we were just down in Kansas last year and it's like 55 degrees. It was really cold earlier that night. Started to warm up. Sun starts to come out. It's kind of like a bluebird day. We didn't have a lot of wind at first. So then once the wind picked up, there's something about mallards and sunshine that just, I can't.
Yeah.
Whenever I see a bluebird day and it's a little windy, I'm going to go try to shoot mallards for sure. And it's just, they work so nicely in that kind of a weather.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Do you think part of that is because they can see those decoys?
I think so. I think they like to get out and move and stretch their wings,
and-
you know?
It just feels good.
Yeah.
Just feels
just look good.
Yeah, it's just
All over
beautiful.
the place.
55 degrees, sunny, and 10-mile-an-hour wind. Let's go and
Mhm.
get on some water or field.
What about you, Combine?
Yeah. Well, for me, I see the world through a lens more often than
Yeah.
not. So I like the sun coming in and getting the shots,
Yeah.
sun and everything like that. But it is strictly because of the artistic aspects of it.
Totally.
It has nothing to do with the actual hunting.
Yeah.
Plus, I
That's
don't
all
like
right.
getting snowed on a whole lot. Getting wet is not really I'm not a big fan of it.
Okay.
So if it's sunshine,
You pick kind
Beautiful
of a weird sport to get super
Yeah.
into.
I know.
I mean, water.
I'll do it.
in the name.
Water
Yeah.
fowl.
Yeah, water.
it's
Yeah,
half of
water
it.
foul. Yeah,
if I had to choose, though, I'd rather not get wet. I'll still
Yeah.
get wet.
but it is good though to know for you guys. The guy who does get wet more than any of us would be Joey. I mean, nobody dumps their waders, pokes holes in their waders, any of that stuff more than this
Yeah,
guy.
more often than not, it's because he has gone over barbed wire or something. There's a hole in
Totally.
his waders.
Totally. He's
You're
pushing
walking
the
in the
envelope
water.
a little far.
Stick goes into your wader, and
Yeah.
you're like, come on.
That is always an
Don't let
awesome.
that stop you.
Oh
No.
yeah.
I still hunt
Okay.
the rest of the day.
Oh yeah.
Usually does a cartwheel on the
Man, there
island
was
and
one
then
day it was
water comes.
probably like 40 degrees outside, and dude, you went over your waders, and there was water up to like his knees in his waders. Just got in the boat, dumped him out. He must. I mean, I don't know how you didn't have frostbite, but we hunted for like 5 hours. Oof. I mean, he just stuck it out, and I was like, you know what, man? Respect. This guy's a trooper.
I'm just
He complained a
weirdly
little
obsessed.
like 4 hours in. He was like, I'm getting pretty cold. I was like, yeah, I'm cold, man, but
The worst one
how
was
you're feeling.
the worst one was in Nebraska. It was -11 with wind chill. It was like -1 on the deal, and it's -1 here or in Minnesota all the time. It's not crazy, but when you get in Nebraska, it's just like a little more of a damp cold. Hits you a little harder, and it was an open river. So I stepped in the boat, foot got caught. I went over, had water come in my left leg only, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I immediately felt hypothermia. So I just got naked on the sandbar, wrung out my pants, and they're just like, I guess we'll just set up while you're getting naked on the sandbar. I go, okay. Wring out my pants, wring out my socks, and I have a heater right there, and I'm just like, please, God, save me.
So you're naked right now.
So I'm naked.
11.
Naked on the sandbar. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than wearing wet clothes.
Naked and afraid.
True. Way better.
Yeah.
It's not good.
And then I couldn't get all the water out of my waders, but after I got all the water out, it started to like warm myself up. And we had heaters and A-frames and stuff like that, and I was able to go the entire day. I don't know how. I think we were just like blocked by the wind. That was like the only way. It was like negative
Gotta
11.
want it, man. Gotta want it.
That's true.
We were
some
also
dedication.
a ways away from civilization.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm
Didn't have a
screwed.
lot of choice.
Yeah,
I'm not just
hey,
going to sit in the truck
I'm
while you
gonna-
guys are shooting birds, and I shot a banded mallard that day too. So I'm glad I didn't.
Fantastic.
So I'm glad I
Had to
didn't
do it.
baby out on that
Right
one.
on.
Yeah.
Right on. If you're gonna die in the middle of nowhere, might as well
Shot a
Might as well
banded
shoot a
mallard.
banded
Might as well
mallard.
shoot a
banded mallard. That's right.
Right.
He died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's how I see it.
And
every
that's
time.
how we would have buried
Every
him.
risk.
Yeah.
I died happy. How about that?
You know,
Yeah.
you guys would have taken that band. Like, oh, there's a band in the coffin.
Yeah.
Sweet.
He would want me to have
Nobody
it.
saw. He would. Yeah.
You so would.
Crazy.
How you guys using or slash are you using motion decoys or flags or spinners? What do you guys?
Yeah.
What's your
Mhm.
strategy there? Or do you not use them early? Or do you use them early but not
Well,
late? What are you doing?
You don't want to show them all your tricks right away.
Okay.
So like, if we could use mojos and spinning wing decoys right away, we would.
Yeah, but you can.
You can in Minnesota.
Yeah,
okay,
so
gotcha.
it's
We're the
you
only
actually-
state.
Yeah,
so
we're
that's
the
pretty
only
sweet.
state. You're not allowed to use motion decoys until after the split. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
interesting.
So
But
that sucks.
like, it's like still it's a level playing field at the same time, though. I imagine, at least within the state.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
Yeah. But we
Movement's
do
good.
use motion decoys for
Movement's
sure.
good. So like field hunting, mallards, always use a mojo unless you see or a spinning wing decoy every single time until you see it not working. But 90% of the time,
Well, yeah,
it
and the
works.
weird thing though about that is you gotta we keep remotes on because the geese don't like it.
yeah, geese
So
most of the time
we
don't
keep
like a
them on.
spinning duck.
And then we
Okay.
know if there's geese coming, we say everybody shut off your decoys, and everybody shuts off the motion.
okay,
Which is weird because they just see a duck suspended in the air like this.
Right.
I've never understood it. but
Doesn't
that
freak
white,
them out, but that
white
white spin,
flash
yeah, they don't like
freaks
it.
them out.
Interesting.
But water hunting, I mostly stick to a jerk rig. Do you guys know what that is?
yeah. I mean, roughly.
So you
Explain.
just
So
you
it's-
connect like 4 to 6 decoys on a string, and then you move it so it creates ripples on the water. Realistic.
So it's like
movement.
a bungee cord that's attached to a weight, like a bigger weight, and then a bunch of decoys on it. So the bungee pulls it back into the water. So
Oh,
you pull
got it.
you pull against it, and it pulls it with the decoys, and then the bungee pulls it back, and then they move back into the water.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But most people on a public marsh, so public hunting, will use 1 to 2 lucky duck, mojo, whatever you want to call it, in the marsh. And after a while, mallards start to get wary of it. So
Gotcha.
I immediately stop. We're using them in the water once I see that they stop working, and I switch to a jerk rig.
Okay.
Okay.
That helps
So
out
you
a
read
lot.
the situation, but we almost always start with lucky ducks in.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
motion decoys, and then
Yeah, and I guess you see right a quick like, yep, those ducks are shy.
Well,
like they're not into it.
That first 10 minutes of shooting time, everything's going to come in. They're just dumb. They're hungry. They want to socialize, whatever
and
it
it's
is.
dark. They can't necessarily see you as easy, and
But if they flare off of that early in the morning, pull it
pull it right
immediately.
away. Yeah,
Yep.
get it
Gotcha.
out of there.
Got it.
So
And getting back to like the why, like I mean, it seems like every time you go waterfowling, like you're getting out there 0 dark 30, you're in the dark, you're setting up decoys, and those birds that you're setting up for, they're coming in to feed then.
Well, yeah, it depends. So, like, ducks will have like a roost. Ducks, especially mallards, they eat a lot of aquatic stuff. Half the time, I don't even know why ducks are in a spot. I think that they're just hanging out there, and then it's like a staging area, maybe.
Okay.
So I honestly couldn't tell you every time, but
can't figure them out completely.
That's the beauty
but
of it.
That is.
95% of the time, if it's at first light, they're coming to feed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
because they're getting up from the roost where they've been chilling,
Where they've been resting all
Yep.
night, and then
and they're like, "All right, let's go."
They wake up
let's go
hungry.
let's
eat.
get some breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
How about some steel?
Right?
Not an ideal breakfast, but that's like the accidental breakfast they didn't want to find. But,
Right. Right.
but yeah, that's most of the situation.
Very cool.
So
And then geese,
I
we
like
use
it.
flags and stuff.
yeah, we flag for geese.
Oh yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely some hot topic people.
Some
back
people
and forth.
say you
don't
should.
agree with it.
Some people
like
say you
it.
shouldn't, and I'm like, whatever. It works. I think it works. Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? Just because, I don't know. Again, like, try a trick. If it's not working, if they're not into it,
Stop using it.
Exactly.
And each day is different.
Seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, if it works.
That's like the biggest thing. Yeah, you just need to figure it out. Yeah, and if you see that something's not working, don't be stuck in your ways and adapt and change and move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think, and that's a big thing, man. Just because it worked today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right.
So try something new.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm gonna close it with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you guys pick something. You got something? You got something else, Joey?
No,
I thought you
just
were raising your hand.
No.
Oh.
doing that.
Yeah, rock on.
That's that's a
That's
first.
like
Mark.
hey, rock on, man.
Don't
First
know.
of the podcast.
You guys,
Okay, Mark.
your kids and your stuff.
Yeah.
Handling
Toast yeet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you choose. You can hunt one species of waterfowl for the rest of your life.
Okay.
You got to pick one.
Okay.
What is it?
Mallards.
Mallards?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm
absolutely.
mallards for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
One species of waterfowl, Connor.
I mean, like, do I have to? Is it where I live? Like, or can I just?
Is it just like you
Yeah, it
can
could
live
be
anywhere
anywhere.
and do
It could be
anything?
anywhere.
Then I'd hunt eiders. Like,
Yeah.
I just had a lot of fun when I
Yeah,
was
that's
hunting
cool.
eiders.
Cool, man.
I can dig it.
I
See, I've
love
never
it.
done
I
that,
can
so I
dig
wouldn't
that.
know.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that either. Yeah, I haven't.
He went without us because we both
Yeah,
had to
he
work.
did.
I did invite you.
He did invite us.
invite
He
you.
did, yeah.
Not a whole lot of
No,
notice.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, I would say, like, my favorite looking bird is a king canvasback.
Okay, cool.
But still, though, there's nothing better than shooting greenheads. I mean, it's just
They are cool. Mm-hmm. They're beautiful. They're fun to work.
Yeah,
Taste good.
awesome.
Yep.
They're good.
But here's the good thing. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision because I love shooting divers and
100%.
mallards, teal.
And I would say, actually,
Geese.
like the last year, I've been more into geese.
Yeah, you have been. That's why I'm surprised you
I
said
love
mallards.
Geese. Yeah, it's just mallards. There's something special.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I'm
you bring
stuck
up
on geese right now.
And you bring up such a cool point, though, because there are so many different species of ducks. They're all cool looking. They're all doing different stuff, and that's part of the the cool parts of waterfowling is the places that it takes you, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You went to some wild country up in
Yeah.
Alaska, right? Or
I was in Alaska, not for eider hunting.
Okay.
That was in Maine. Yeah.
that was in Maine.
Maine
okay.
for eider hunting. Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like I'd never go to any of the places that I'd
Totally,
end up
dude.
if I wasn't hunting.
Oh,
or
totally.
something.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I made a rule for myself that I'm not going to travel anywhere unless I can shoot ducks there. Ducks or geese there.
It's really limiting, but we're gonna let him roll with it.
Not really. Not really.
It makes a lot of sense to this guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real
Love
smart and
to
good
hunt.
time.
That's
Right.
just-
And then you meet salt of the earth people doing the same thing that they're just as passionate about as you are. Instant friendship 90% of the time. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why
That's
not?
pretty cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Obsessed.
Right on.
Cool.
We need to do more of it, Jim.
Well, we're going to take you guys
I
out
agree.
this season,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
get ready.
Well,
We'll
We'll make it
sounds
happen.
good.
Well, thanks for coming out, guys.
Yes.
Had a
Thank
blast.
you.
Appreciate making the trip. Have an awesome weekend. Sounds like you got some fun stuff in store with some duck scouting, maybe a little bit of fishing, a little bit of hanging out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
about
Should
it
be-
exactly right
should be
there.
good
So
stuff. So
thank you guys for having us here. It's been a blast.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
always
As
fun.
Joey says.
Rock on.
Thanks,
Rock
bro.
on.
dude.
Okay,
Thanks,
cool.
bruh.
There we go. So now you
Yeah.
have it. Vortex Nation podcast listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. And you know where to find these guys too, at Midwest Flyways. Everything,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
It's
Super
what the
easy.
website's called. It's what the social handles are called. So
Yep.
that's where you go find these guys. But in the meantime, though, we'll catch you guys on the next one. All right.
Bye.
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 All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. Again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.